Right, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Aloysius, for that introduction. I think, yes, Aloysius has explained, I've been pretty much been in DP for the past 18 years. So I suspect then in today's discussion, I'd like to be able to share some of the journey through as a data information provider in the earlier days of 20 years ago. What was the whole mindset, all right? Today, when I was walking through the exhibits, how you saw data is being mashed up and the potential, and especially with the cloud solutions coming on board, lots of things can be done, which if you ask yourself 20 years ago, it's very singular, all right? And therefore, the approach, but then we were then the early starters where with single pieces of data, we still challenge ourselves to say, now, how do we collate that? How do we put it together? How to make sense of it, more for the objective of someone else? And interestingly, we were, speaking on behalf of DP, the mindset was pretty much that we don't own the data. We go and gather correct business sources, and especially, of course, just as what Jeremy has shared, actually we focus on working with the Singapore government in different agencies. And some people feel that I could collect a lot of new sources of data, but for DP in the earlier days, really the government was the best of friend in certain sense that once if they hear you are doing something useful and meaningful, they were very open on you being able to do something with the data. As long as you know, especially for DP in the business of business credit information, a lot of responsibility, integrity on how you use the data, who are the people coming in to use the data. So it's not just about the rights and the ability for you to put things together. Are you able to address who are using it? So there is a lot of assurance given that we know who are using what of these pieces of data, so that end day, the responsibility is well accounted for. So kind of very much we walk through that journey. So pretty much as a sharing, then it's about the mindset about different sources of data. And as we put ourselves in the mindset, it's the most using the words IDA have about the verticals. We were then creating around what we call credit verticals, right? And the credit verticals of a person, of a business, you actually have to walk around the business framework around him, the individuals, that's what we do. If you ask me today, there is still much more we could dwell in this vertical. However much here you can see the list of some of the partners that in around as a business credit verticals, what are the collaborators or the workings that we put together. So where Aloysius shared about putting credit information together, how can you really work with different agencies collecting it? Pretty much, of course, the approach DP has been taken is about giving very accurate, reliable, almost traceable to source information. So with that approach, that's for a lot of times, it becomes pretty much, very much as a information as a service within single agencies. And you can say it's an initiation step towards today what we are hoping data as a service would allow is to open this up into more than just information as a service within single agencies. And information providers like DP and many others will definitely strive to become that broker, that in-between enabler, to be able to take not the single interest of each agency, because if you can see on the list here, every single agencies have their intended purpose of what they are doing, be it in the management of business data, management of property-related data, transport data, employee CPF data, tax data, and so forth, right? So they have their whole realm of objectives in which these data are collated. And it takes really what you call a broker like us to be able to demonstrate continually a diversity of how this data can be mashed up. Of course, the greatest challenge really is because what just now I've shared about the very fact that we want to be able to trace right to source, right to accountable information. Pretty much many a times we need to go right down to the layer of the identity, the specific address, the specific vehicle number, and so forth. And that makes sometimes, even as government agencies, very nervous about how much information should a business provider like DP would be allowed to have access to. So really, of course, seriously, the question is, well, the more you hold it back, the less unable is it for enablers like us to be able to put together. So when I went down several months ago to look at data.gov.sg and look at what is available as data as a service today, I do say that it's really some degree of demonstration that our government agencies are trying to recreate several cross-agency related as a data as a service solution. I mean, it's about bringing data across different paradigms, or even for you care verticals, and put together in such a manner that you allow end user to be able to go in and do a selective inquiry. So it is therefore allowing people to be able to get that kind of a selection criteria on. And I thought that these few that I saw were real good attempts in trying to create, especially I love the map related APIs, which because that shows lots of other interplay of various agencies inside there. I encourage of you who are interested to really go inside and think of possibilities in which in the map related, it shows you population densities and so forth. More can be done. I saw population densities in different zones and regions. Now the next questions would be, okay, you have 20,000 of people staying around Ang-Mo-Kio. So are they young? Are they old? What sort of family units and so forth? I think with all these more advanced way to go think and deeper, how much can the government agencies willing to share? It will really benefit a retailer going to decide if I will open a new F&B shop there. I'd like to know what sorts of fabric are there, right? Are more young couples around? Are there more children, family units being around, and so forth? So it's how do we really have to kind of further do on it. So I suspect that there is still much bigger avenues in which we could get our government as more of a cross-government agencies. So yes, there's a great work effort going into within each agency, what they are continue trying to bring value, right? What SLA has brought value and so forth. But I thought that the real beautiful kind of outcome would be a lot of cross-government agencies. Of course, then there's really the opportunities in there. When we come to the private sector, where of course Jeremy has shared how he has tried to also engage the private sectors, then it's truly quite a real challenge to bring private sectors, especially now if I speak from a point of trying to bring private sectors, data providers together. All right. What Jeremy has done is has brought in the private sectors within the property agents together. Now the question is that how do you now willing to bring likewise an organization like DP and bring them together with some other similar private data sector providers together to be able to bring a greater different kind of dimension of information to be shared. I think because one of the key challenges that even as an organization like DP and the fact is most of these data owned are are client-centric, meaning that these are the information that we have gained around from how the customers are using us. And this data, actually, if it's properly mashed up, is very important. Yet at the same time, if it's set up as a raw data, is too confidential. So a good question would be, for example, like, we know because of the amount of banks that are using us, we do know per month, per day, how many inquiries is being searched on the individuals in whole of Singapore, how many business information is searched on businesses and so forth. And you'll be very surprised that when we start to track that and look at those data, you could literally look like a stock market prediction. So it has a certain leading kind of implied activities, and you could also trace that during a downturn, the activities of the searches goes up before it comes down. So we would have really the benefit of having such knowledge, but the question is now, what motivates a data provider like us to, as a DP, to be able to want to collate this, mash it up and form new insights, and how and when can such informations be rendered craft for the value of other alternate users. So I think the key motivations would be how to put like-minded data service providers who has actually through their own line of data solutions have a lot of traffic-related users transactions to bring them together and be able to be motivated to create new synergies, new ways of doing their business. And this is something that really would have what I call potentially would unlock new kind of thought process into how Singapore can become really towards working on as a smart nation. So multi-organizational, not exactly within the data space. So really the critical success factors that I think we could seriously have to work along. I don't have the magic answers or solutions, is how much can the federated search that can go through around secure data sources and pull out and pull it, and to be able to then reach out to something that makes sense. And even as users, all right, maybe a bank who have access to DP data, the banks may have access to stock market data, the banks could have access to SRX data. How could that bank say that, okay, I would like to have a mashup of some of these data I interlink, and I'm a bona fide user of these three solutions. How can I be able to then link this up in a different form and dimension to help me to form new analytics for me as a bank, as a user? Really, this will be a new dimension in which we hope in the longer run, how can like-minded different data service providers can come together to create that combination of new data records and form new insights. So pretty much that is what I hope to see. This will be the new, the next step that we can work towards. So of course, I think that will be really about cultivating a good anonymization. I don't profess to be someone to be really expert in this, so I just pick up some of the general techniques and how we can be working out or together with IDA to create some general standards and guides, and maybe even with the government agencies to therefore allow more data details of data to be made available. So salaries, yes, salaries of somebody is very confidential, but imagine if we know better who is being paid, what sort of skills the person have and so forth. Where are these data being available to some form, some of the HR companies, some of the government in the income tax is there, right? So how can we mesh up from the skills at one point, from the income tax so forth, can we mesh up, do some min-max and so forth, and allow such information to be available. It really greatly will help, let's say for an SME, they really do not know how much to pay somebody, right? You always hear that salary is just going up. Now, if this information is made more available, I think there is a lot of users to help business to do their, to conduct the business better. So I read the PDBA Act or advisory guidelines, and I think our PDBA has been written with lots of responsibility, and in there I see that they were willing to address how you should anonymize it, and therefore permitting for sharing and for opening to the public. So that could be an effort. So as moving forward, I think as a closing sharing, I really would think that IDA will play a great role as being as a neutral enabler to lead how public agencies and private data providers to willing to come together, and maybe through focus group, through some way to say that each of us has a certain knowledge. So if you bring the likes of the DP, you have people who are deep in the knowledge about credit, deep in the knowledge about business. But people like us may not be deep in the knowledge of, for example, property related areas, spatial, and so forth. But actually, what would it take to bring two different groups of data providers and coming together into small focus group, and with the intention to break out and create new indexing search engines and create a new dimension of business data that will allow, that will open up further options for data users. So I thought that that can be something we can think about. Right. Thank you.